What's going on, everybody? How you doing? We are in the middle of a live stream, and it's great to see you. We are doing a little bit of bass playing tonight, and the internet has been an interesting place to kind of interact with thus far. But we're kind of getting up and running. I'm going to be just keeping an eye on YouTube here for a sec, just making sure that it's kind of behaving, which it's seeming like it wants to. So there we go. Good. All right. We are alive and active on both platforms. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Worship Guitar Show. That's actually going to be episode number 12, and we are basically going over this concept of, hey, I got rostered to play the bass at the last minute. I don't know if that's ever happened to any of you, but it has certainly happened to me. And the goal is to kind of talk about, hey, what's involved in all of this? What is it that we need to know? How is it that we kind of need to approach preparing for this? And what are some of the things that we can do to kind of venture down this journey of being a bass player? So first of all, I would love it if the folks out there could take a moment and just kind of tell me if you own a bass, if you do, what kind of bass you've got. In turn, the bass that you have, how often you actually end up playing bass at church. And just kind of your relationship with the bass, that would be fabulous. And it is a pleasure to be here with you. And I am monitoring comments on both Facebook and YouTube, so go ahead and bring those comments along. And this is going to be a lot of fun. All right, so here's the deal. The bass and the guitar have a lot in common, but the first time a guitar player kind of sits down to play the bass, it's usually not very good. So one of the things I want to talk about a little bit is just kind of some of the differences in technique and some of the things that we really want to be conscious of as we make this transition from the guitar to the bass. So first thing I think most people are wondering is like, well, can I get away doing this thing with a pick? And the answer to that question is definitely. As a matter of fact, much of the time when I'm playing bass, I'm toggling between fingers. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time toggling between muting the microphone here and unmuting the microphone, hopefully. So here's the deal. I'm going to spend a little bit of time playing toggling back and forth between the sound of the pick and the fingertips. Here we go. And so, the neat thing is the pick and the fingers both are very dynamic depending on how hard you hit. So the first and most important thing you want to think about is your attack. What's neat about the fingertips is as you play with them, again, muting the microphone. There's all this lovely stuff that happens with the fingertips as you hear them kind of crossing the string that you don't get with the pick. The other thing is that it kind of gives you this convenient place to rest with your hands, which is kind of a big deal. So, and in turn, kind of where do you actually rest? Well, the neat thing is that this pickup here, especially on a P bass, it's a great place to be able to rest. As you kind of move to the other strings there, you're able to just, and gosh, I wish this cable weren't in the way, but I need to be able to hear myself. So the deal is, as you kind of toggle between these different strings here, you're kind of moving between resting with the thumb there on the pickup there as I'm kind of down on the E string. So move up to the A string, the thumb just has a tendency to kind of come along to the next lower adjacent string. That is to say, lower adjacent string. And ideally, you should be alternate plucking. Do I consistently alternate pluck? No. But I try to. And so one of the things you can try and do to work that up is just to kind of take some basic exercises where you're going quarter, 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 quarter. I'm just leave the mic up for this part. Quarter, 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 eighth. Quarter, eighth. And working with the different subdivisions is a huge help. That way you're just getting your articulation. Same thing with the pick. Is there a right or wrong in terms of playing with the fingers of the pick? No. And generally speaking, I like to use a combination of the two because it allows me to have a wider variety of textures. It's actually, arguably, in some ways, I enjoy playing the bass more than I enjoy playing guitar because you get a chance to set up so many really, really important things. You are, quite often, the lowest note, as long as Fluff's not playing his 9-string with the drop tune. You're the lowest note in the band. And yes, the keyboard player will sometimes play in the same octave as you, but generally speaking, you don't want them playing super heavy notes, right? So you're really the one that's defining the lowest note in the chord that's happening. So it means that if, for example, and we hit that, here's, and there, besides some slight intonation issues with my two-hand tapping there, by defining either the 1, 3, or the 5 in the bass or the octave, you're able to kind of say a lot about the way a chord supporting the vocal melody is really going to sound in terms of the arrangement. And it's a tremendously powerful thing. The other thing is, if your church has a big sound system, you can control the dynamics of the entire band. They're only going to let the drums get so loud, right? The snare drum is always right smack in the middle of the lead vocal. The bass drum can only get so loud or else people are going to be losing their minds up in the front. But the bass has to have a certain amount of dynamic range for it to be big when the band is big and smaller when the band is smaller, right? So if you stay at that small dynamic range, you can never get big with the band. So there's a lot of latitude within the framework of a mix to really ride the dynamics. And if you have a trust with the front of house sound tech, you can really do a lot to shape things. And so, you know, it's one of the things that a lot of people don't think about with the bass, you know, is you're kind of, I'm going to turn that. Ability to be really quiet. And to bring it up. Now, obviously, in a setting like this, I would not be as inclined to bring the volume way up. I'm going to bring the drive down here because it's a little bit too driven. Now, there's a funny thing going on here. It's a kind of a funny story, but tragic at the same time. So what happened was I had a different bass setup. That's a little bit better. Different bass setup, but the interesting thing about using a green bass with a green screen is it becomes this strange kind of see-through kind of mess. Not a cool thing. So so all the lovely setup I did with the tone here, at the last minute I decided to change the basses. So what we'll actually get a chance to do is bring up the HX Edit application, and I'll kind of walk through setting a tone up from the ground up. All right, so first of all, let me take a look at what's going on here in the chat. First of all, thank you for everybody for tuning in. Always a pleasure. Bass tones tonight. Awesome. Ibanez sound. First of all, I'm on YouTube. Hello, Nicholas. How you doing? I have an Ibanez sound gear. Love it. My church was going to throw it away, but someone from my church fixed it up, and it sounds great. Way to go. My 5-string over there is an Ibanez. Brad Miller, I typically play guitar, but I alternate on bass a lot and love being able to do the walk-ups and downs to transition to accent the next passage. Absolutely love it. On Facebook, talk to me, people. Let's see if I can actually do this without getting some terrible feedback. Nope, there it is. Good. All right, hold on. Shh. Amazing thing is to change the bases. So what we'll actually get a chance to do is bring up the HX Edit application. No. The amazing thing is when you go full screen with Facebook, it immediately launches the speaker in at 10, even if you have it muted. All right. Hey, hi, Chris, by the way. I'm over on Facebook. Kettlewell. As a lefty guitarist who didn't own a bass, I managed to avoid being asked to play bass church for years before I finally bought myself one a few years back. Awesome. Have still only done it a couple of times, decided to play with a pick because I found I could play more accurate rhythm. Bass I bought is an Ibanez SR300. It's a nice bass. I like it. Awesome. Seems like there's a lot of Ibanez's in the house. Hello, Henry. SR300 is a great bass for a guitarist. Has a narrow neck so you can find it easy switching over from guitar. Boy, I'm feeling like maybe I should have just gone and grabbed the Ibanez, which, you know what? I'm just going to do that. So I'll be back in just one quick sec. Going off frame is the thing you're not supposed to do, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm going to mute the bass by going like that, and I'll be back in just a sec. Grabbing the Ibanez. Here I come. All right. There we go. All righty. Let's get this thing wired up. Let me get wired for sound here. And you cancel. There we go. All right. Got a lot of Ibanez players in the house. I love it. My bass, there we go, another one. Deacon, how you doing? My main bass is a 5-string Ibanez SR305E. I play it every week at church. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, well, the first thing I would love to do, now that I seem to be all wired up, and there we go. Well, that's a nice sounding bass. Got a little bit of nice rattle there, which drives some sound techs absolutely out of their mind, and others of us. What's going on, Brett? How are you, man? All right, first of all, let's open up some questions so I can kind of be formulating, A, as I kind of am thinking about the things that I'm thinking about, B, I can also be thinking about the things you're thinking about. So let me just, I'm going to toggle back and forth between these various platforms here, and, okay, great. So here's the deal. Most of the time when we get a chart, if we're lucky, it has most of the chords mostly right. And in terms of actually kind of stepping into, I'm going to be the bass player on Sunday morning, there are a number of considerations that I think about. First and foremost, as you've probably heard me talk about before, you want to become familiar with the arrangement. Even if you don't have time or the initial capacity to get the bass lines, knowing the form of the song means you kind of have a snowball's chance of being able to go from the front end to the back end, right? The same thing is true as a guitar player. But the thing is that it's even harder sometimes when you come in and you're like, I don't know about you, but when I pick up a different instrument on Sunday morning, I'm always thinking that, some of the folks out there are going to notice, and I become just a little bit more self-conscious. Now, that's not saying to become more self-conscious, but it's just kind of a natural thing. It's like, you're kind of like, it seems like when people are used to seeing you play guitar, if you're mainly a guitar player, people are used to seeing you mainly play guitar. So the idea of kind of hanging out as the bass player is kind of a new endeavor, right? So with that said, we want to kind of come up with the ideas. When we walk onto the platform, we want to be prepared. Now, when one walks onto the platform, and I'm going to ask this, what's going on, Marvin? How you doing? I'm going to see if anybody, it's okay. There's enough of a delay here between the question asking and the feedback. HX Stomp for electric, acoustic bass, love the stock patch, Woody Blue, have a Sterling sub, awesome. Reading the comments here, John Zachary, how you doing? Have a Squire modified vintage Mustang short scale, love it. Play it occasionally for youth worship. My son also used it to learn how to play bass. That's awesome. Dean, welcome aboard. Well, just to bring in some balance, I'm playing bass on either a Fender Fretless J, a little Jocko action there, I love it, or a PRS Gary Granger 5. Very nice. Okay, so here's the thing. Where do you want to stand? You want to stand just back from the kick drum. You want to stand in such a way that you can see the kick drum. And the interesting thing is normally, your average drummer and bass player duo, the bass player is supposed to be on the hi-hat side of the drummer. So they're kind of doing this little kind of look thing. The drummer's playing over the hi-hat. They kind of have this interaction as the drummer's moving around the kit. And then kind of, because in many ways, kind of like the right hand on the guitar where you're kind of like thinking about this, or maybe the left hand, whatever hand it is that you focus on, same thing kind of is happening around the hi-hat interaction with the snare drum for the drummers. So they have a tendency to be focusing here. So in the act of that, the bass player is traditionally there. How do I say this nicely? Your average worship team does not rehearse as much as, say, maybe the Brothers Johnson did, right? So the interaction that would happen, between the drums and the bass in that type of an ensemble, where it's like this, doesn't always happen with a worship team. And that's fine. Not everybody has a bazillion hours to practice or as a recording, touring, whatever act. I love it. Fine. But the thing is this, is that the one thing that you want to be paying attention to is the kick drum. So the ability I actually prefer to come around the right side of the drummer, and I kind of almost always end up being rostered there anyway. And so I can watch the kick drum. And there are a couple of very important reasons for that. One, most of the time I spend enough time, one, as I mentioned before, listening to the material where I'm comfortable with the flow of it. Two, noting what the kick drum pattern is such that I can lock in with that. Most of the time on a recording, and in case you didn't know this, especially if you're just starting out, very typically, if the kick drum is going kick, 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 as in 1, 2, 3, and we're going to be going, actually let me find a note. And so the idea of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and, all right, is really where we want to be hanging out if they're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on and so forth. So the deal is, first and foremost, you want to be able to be comfortable with your eighth note subdivisions at the very least. So that is to say, I would suggest spending a little time just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so I was going between long notes and staccato notes, okay? Now the other thing you want to be able to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that way you're used to finding where each one of those subdivisions are. And most of the time we're not going to encounter 16th notes, but I would suggest learning how to do the same thing with 16th notes. That I'm not going to play all of them, but basically that's 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4 and a 1E and a. And the idea of by calling out 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, if there's some piece playing and trying to go, where is that? 1E and a 2E and a 3E. You can count your way through the measure and actually identify it by counting your way through the measure and identifying it. That is, again, one of the things about being a bass player. There's a slightly different perspective. We're not waiting for the solo, at least most bass players. We're actually just kind of holding down the fort. So we need to understand how to think of the rhythm as a bass player traditionally thinks about rhythm. And that's actually one of my favorite things about playing bass and actually trying to approach the bass as a bass player is that I'm thinking about, again, how I can support the drums, how I can support the vocals. So if the drummer, and I would say less than 50% of the time, I've spent time figuring out what the kick drum part is on the verse and the chorus and the bridge, and pre-chorus if there's a pre-chorus. And then basically in rehearsal, if it's just a Sunday morning rehearsal, just kind of looking over there, kind of going, yep, they don't know the kick drum part. So basically it means in rehearsal and during the service, you now have to use that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and I missed my one. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2. The business, of course, is supposed to be the snare drum. I don't have some desire to suck on a straw or something. I don't know. All right. So the idea, again, it's this mindset of like, okay, we're locking in on some sort of grid. And most of the time in worship, it's going to be an eighth note grid. And the neat thing about an eighth note grid is you get your quarter notes for free, right? Because if you're thinking about 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you already get your 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, one of the other things that we want to be conscious of as bass players that we're not really good at guitar players, as a matter of fact, most guitar players are absolutely terrible at this, is the duration of notes, right? If you're a horn player, you're very aware of how long you're going to hold a note. If you're a guitar player, you're like, I hold it until it's done feeding back, right? So it's just a very different thing. But the whole kind of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so the idea is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, the other thing that's happening with a little bit of rattle there, when I come down and mute on the downbeat of 2, it's kind of coinciding with the snare drum. So the idea of that duration kind of is one of the ways you're really allowing the rhythm to pulse. And again, as guitar players, there are times we kind of play like that, but most of the time we're thinking about like, how long can I get away with either just playing eighth notes or just holding this thing, or how long can my Strymon kind of keep echoing the sound as I'm playing these, angelic things, right? It's just a different headspace. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, let me take a look here and see if any questions have come in that I can field in the midst of all of this. And great. Okay, you're not going to let me scroll here, comments, huh? Is that what's not going to happen here? All right. So, and what happens if I refresh you? I already know the answer to that. Is the speaker going to come back on? Well, of course it is, because it's like that. Hold on a second. All right, there we are. And I want to be able to see that. Okay, good. You're letting me scroll. Hey, very nice. Okay, great. Again, please bring me your questions. That would be awesome. All right. Now, that said, I will just presume that I am somehow engaging enough that you're continuing to watch, which is great. All right, so here's the thing. That kick drum pattern, when I'm watching the drummer back there, it's the same thing that I'm doing when I'm listening to the recordings. And the neat thing is, as you've listened to the recordings, again, my example was 1, 1, 3 and 1, 3 and. Then I kind of come in and I'm going, okay, that's the kick drum pattern for that particular song. I'm looking at the kick drum and he's going 1, 2, 3, bump, 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 bump. So they're going, instead of going 1, 2, 3 and, they're going 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1. Hang on, what did I just? 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and. All right, so let me just walk through a couple ones because I've confused myself slightly. So I'm going to do the downbeat of 1, the downbeat of 3, and the and of 3, which is a pretty common one. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And that's what I would call the Ringo beat. That's the Sgt. Pepper beat, right? The UT police are pulling me over right now. All right, so the deal is that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So I'm going to be looking at the kick drum beater. All right, so what's neat is once you kind of begin to go, there's, I don't know, like 8 main basic kick drum patterns. Once you kind of become familiar with them, then you kind of go, okay, I recognize what that is. But being able to count through them is a good idea. So we're now going to go, instead of going 1 and 2 and 3 and, we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3. So we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now, the other thing you can do is, let me grab a pick. So now I'm combining eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So the ability to combine the kind of pedal with stabs 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 becomes really cool. that kind of is the main thing I think I wanted to cover in terms of the kick drum parts. But yes, all right, Brett, not a bass player or a fill-in, but I'm still watching to learn how a bass is supposed to be played. Me too. And the neat thing is that the bass and guitar, although the bass player and the guitar player don't spend a lot of time hanging out per se, we're still playing a lot. Now, the interesting thing about time. So let's talk, instead of about subdivisions, let's actually talk about time, because it is a really important part of what a bass player does. I would say, there's probably a high probability that 50 or so % of you play with a click. Oh, I've got a shadow. Stop that. There we go. And so because of that, the idea is that you're dependent on the drummer's time if they're not playing with a click. And not every drummer has spent a huge amount of time sitting there with a click, fine-tuning their time, getting it all nice and dialed. And that's totally okay. We're dealing in a volunteer situation. But that does mean as the tempo begins to ramp up, we need to be kind of going, where is true north? And so there are a couple of things that I like to do. And that also has to do is if you are playing with the click, but there's somebody on the team that it's kind of like a dog on a leash. They just always want to be ahead. You've got to figure out where you're going to sit in the time, because if somebody is leaning way ahead of the click and just desperate to rush, they're at the front end of that beat. They're just pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And if the click weren't there, they would be, like 5 BPM faster by the end of the song, bare minimum. So then, in contrast to that, you've got some seasoned musician that's kind of back there. And by seasoned, I mean they've sat there and really massaged the click. They've come to understand that time is the framework through which kind of music sits in this perfect zone. That's not to say that you can't purposely speed things up. And there's a song called Crossfire by Stevie Ray Vaughan. If you listen to the beginning, I won't even hum it because we're on YouTube here. But it basically speeds up by like 10, maybe 12 BPM. The starting tempo is this dun dun, and it ends. It really gets rocketing up. So there are times where it actually really fits the song, and actually the song would actually be worse if it actually had to sit at one tempo. So there are exceptions to this, but generally speaking, if the bass player, I should say if the drummer is, let me see if I can pull up my resident drummer here. Let's see here. And I'm going to pull up something nice and straightforward, and I'm going to do here and here and here, and let's see what we've got. Not quite what I had in mind. That's okay. They're always wanting to solo. Get a drum fill in. Nah. You're not going to get away with that. Here we go. Let's try this. And this. And this. Nah. All right. Let's try this guy right here. Sorry, guys. Let's do this guy right here. And that'll be good. All right, now there, I'm going to actually drag this guy down onto my little timeline here. I'm going to create a little loop of the first little bit of that because we're going to talk about dissecting the kick drum part. And the kick drum part actually changes in the second bit of that. So let's just listen for a second. And I'm actually going to loop that just on the second measure. And so let's do this, and all right, hold on, let's try this instead. I don't want that cymbal in there because that's deathly annoying. Oh, I see. When I move that, it doesn't edit it. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, okay, hang on. Let me break out the scissors here. Goodbye to you. All right, good. Thank you. And let's do this. Here we go. All right, so pulling that bass drum part out of there, you just got to kind of get used to listening to where they're sitting in the time. I'll pull something a little bit less funky out, but the idea is chasing that drummer for where that. What are you here? All right. There we go. So, now one of my other favorite. The octave, my favorite thing that I wear out to death. Just love that night and day. All right. So we talked about tones. What program is that for? That, the drums. Sorry, I'm famous for quoting half a question and then answering. That is EZdrummer. And I love EZdrummer. So they have basically, it's a combination of MIDI packs that are the patterns, and then it's a bunch of loops. And it works and sounds great. I just absolutely love it. And as a bass playing guitar player, it allows me to sit with real drum performances that have been turned into MIDI and start to think like a bass player playing with a drummer. And the other neat thing about it is that a lot of the MIDI has not been quantized. Now, for those of you that do not know what quantized is, basically we were talking before about kind of this eighth note grid, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the main grid that you want to be thinking of is these quarter notes. It's where your foot's going to tap. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the upbeats, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, are the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It comes from your foot being down on the downbeats and up on the upbeats. That's simple. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so the idea of kind of this 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and the 16th notes, you just got to get used to counting them. But your downbeats and your upbeats, that's where the majority of the stuff we do in worship has a tendency to live, unless you're playing some stuff that has a little bit more rhythmic intricacy with it. And that's where the 16th note stuff really begins to be pretty cool. And so again, earlier what we were doing was we were counting through the 16th note displacements, which was really, really awesome. So what's neat about this is that, first of all, counting through these things, let's see if I can do a good example. One of the other things that's kind of cool is I can take the tempo here. Let's do this. And I can slow it down. One E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. 1 and a 2 E and 3. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. A 3. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. So the neat thing about being able to count those 16th notes, if I bring that up a tempo, your average worship bass player may not necessarily be able to pull out that 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. What is it? Hang on, what's the last one? A 4E and a 1E and a 2E, a 3E and a 4E and a. Hold on. Yeah. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Oh, sorry. 3E and a 4. A 4. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. Sorry. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Oh, sorry. And the stupid one that I missed. 1 and 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. So calling them out is obviously a bit harder than. But that's how you kind of learn how to just grab that. And the neat thing is with EZdrummer here, I'm slowing it way down, way down. 1E and a 2E and a 3E. Sorry, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1 and 2E. Sorry, I started counting eighths instead of 16ths. 1E and a 2E and a 1E and there we go. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E. I'm not playing on 2. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 1E and I can do this. And a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and there we go. So the neat thing about this is by taking that grid instead of just being on quarter notes or just on eighth notes and being able to extend it into 16th notes, it's just 1E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 3E and hold on 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E. You just learn to kind of find where they are, and then you can count your way to them, and then you can feel them because some folks just don't feel them right away. It took me a lot of counting to kind of begin to go. All right, then once you're playing them in the right place in the pocket, all right, I'm going to bring my volume up just a little bit, and I will bring the drummer down. And I'm going to change my tone a little bit. There we go. Now, what I'm trying to do there, no beer for you. It's almost this falling asleep sort of vibe that I've got going on there, where I'm purposely like hanging way on the backside of. The other thing I'm doing is I'm taking advantage of where the long breaks are before the next kick drum. And it creates this kind of, the funny thing is I get the feeling of, you ever seen those kind of washboard things like kind of, But what's really neat, again, what I love about bass is that there's a harmonic side to it and there's a structural side to it. Okay, that said, this tone is absolutely driving me out of my mind. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to here, and we're going to go over... No, we're not going to do that. Holy flipping cow. Okay, well, no. Okay, well, that was an interesting moment. Okay. Uh-huh. No. Okay. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So I'm going to see if I'm stupid enough to try that again. What I'm going to do, give me just a moment. I'm going to mute my master audio here for just a quick second, and I'm going to see if I can avoid that strange little... hang on just one sec. All right, loop back. What's going on with you? Loop back, loop back, loop back, loop back. VR1, yep, okay, yep. Okay, display audio, you're down. You're down. Oh, is that why you're doing that? Off, VR1, okay. All right, we are going to mute the main audio coming out of here for a quick second at the risk of doing that again to myself, but you're not going to hear it. Give me a second. Hi, I'm back. Okay, so we are now hanging out in HXEdit here. And as promised, we're going to spend a little bit of time going over kind of how to set up a tone here. Now, here's the deal. Initially, I had kind of pulled out my green P-bass, which actually was kind of where I started off setting the tone. So, when you've got an instrument that is an active instrument, this is actually a great talking point. Actually, this is a happy accident. And I will embrace the moment. So obviously, as a guitar player, you look at this and go, like, groovy, there's a lot of dials and switches, it's kind of like a fuzz pedal. I love that. Until you kind of go, holy snap, what do I actually do with this? So most of the time, when you see a trio of things like this, and maybe this is obvious to you, but it kind of like took me a moment to kind of get there. Much of the time, this will be treble, middle, and bass, and those will be active. And somewhere in the midst of all of this, there will be, when you see two pickups, you're going to see that there's either going to be a master volume and a master tone. Hang on, let me switch to the other camera, just one sec. Let me get over here. There we go. We're back. There we go. You're going to have a master volume and a master tone, and some sort of three-way or two-way pickup selector. Or okay, yeah. So it's been a minute, so I'm going to guess that this engages the active and the passive, and I'll double check in a minute. This should be your treble, middle, and bass. So traditionally, if you see three of these controls, especially when they're kind of a little bit smaller like that, kind of a dead giveaway, treble, middle, and bass. One of these switches, and I think it's this one, brings the active in and out. And when you've got an active setup, there'll be a battery inside the bass that will be engaged, which of course only dies in between rehearsal and service. Just we're saying, just go in there. Truth. All right, so that said, they'll either be, and that's how it's set up on this instrument. This guy is a selector knob, which is interesting. We don't really have that much on guitars, but basically all the way up this way is the neck pickup, all the way in the middle is the blend of the two pickups, and hey, all the way this way is just this pickup. So let me see if I've got this dialed up correctly. There you go. You can hear the level jump when I bring in, Okay. Absolutely no idea what this little switch does. My guess is maybe it's a phase for these two pickups when they're middle, but hang on, let me double check. No. Read the manual. Okay, so the deal is this one down here pretty clearly brings in the active circuit. So it looks like that these guys, even in non-active mode, are still active, which is actually pretty cool. So ideally, I would suggest starting in the middle position there, and everything just, besides the volume, kind of at high noon and starting there. And oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mention, these controls here kind of have a détente, just like this one does, where all the way up is actually boosting, all the way back is actually cutting, and there's a middle spot where it's just flat. Start off with it flat. All right, Genius here has figured it out. This switch is the active-passive switch. What a moron. Okay, so then that means this guy is the moron switch. All right, so I tell you what, let's just start there. So the idea is we're going to start in passive mode. All right, now that I've actually figured this thing out, what a moron. These guys do not work in passive mode, kind of like I thought. So the deal is that at that point, you're just dealing with your master volume here, and then this guy. Okay, so starting off in passive mode, you start off, let me check my level here. Let me just get over into HX Edit. All right, so now that we've got a little bit of level there, and let me just, well, that's kind of, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull back the bridge pickup. A little more hair on the drive here. Hang on. So let's get over to, now that I'm relatively happy with this, let's finish up over here on the bass real quick. And so I'm going to show you kind of where I ended up. So I started off with this guy right in the middle there, and I ended up going for almost all neck pickup just to kind of make it. Okie dokie. Now, let's go into active mode. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sound that I kind of already liked and then add a whole bunch of boost to that. I'm going to start off with the controls flat. Boost the bass a little bit. Now, this is where the subtle thing with the right hand is really, really important. It's kind of one of the things that I kind of have a conversation with a lot of guitar players about, which is like, hey, if you play at one volume the entire time with your pick, your dynamic level is going to be like this. And yes, you can use drive pedals and a volume pedal to bring things up and down, but there is a that different levels with the right hand is where the magic happens, right? So what I like to do is I'll find one particular control. In this particular case, I'm not going to max out the bass, but I can go from flat bring it up just a spot. And so where that works is, say we're at the beginning of the first verse. That's obviously not your average church riff. And I just kind of held a note and snuck it up just a little bit. And all of a sudden now I'm using the EQ in my favor, right? So I'm just kind of going, instead of getting louder, and it is getting a little louder in the process, it's getting fuller. The other thing I'm kind of massaging the subwoofers. So all of a sudden what's happened is the entire band has gotten wider. It's gotten bigger. And it's one of those things where if you use it subtly, it's a wonderful, wonderful effect, so to speak. All right, so heading back, and I like that. I'm going to use this as kind of my go-to. Oh, by the way, is if you get come back to your bass and it kind of gets the scratchy sound there, it may be that the pot itself is on its way out, or there we go. Some static is built in there, or maybe some dust has gotten in there. But doing that little kind of like that will clean it up a little bit. All right. Now, I want to go back over to HX Edit. So give me a moment and get back over here and get back over here. There we go. All right. So this is kind of where things are set up right now. And I realize, ooh, spinning beach ball of death. That is not good. You can't see the spinning beach ball of death, but I can. Let me just come over here. Oh. Multiple spinning beach balls of death. Okay. Hang on a second. Let me see how we're doing over here. Okay, we still appear to be live. No. Hang on a second. Let me just double check something here. Let me make sure I'm not, like Billy Idol would say, dancing with myself. All right. Give me just a second. Let me make sure that I'm actually with you. Oh, great. Gotta love that. All right. Okay. No, it looks like we are still up and running. Okay, good. Okay, great. Awesome. All right, so the deal is, I'm just going to... There we go. All right, so... Oh, dropping. They're dropping like flies. All right, so here's the deal. What I'm going to do inside HX Edit here is I'm just going to kind of outline what's going on here. I like a little bit of drive to kind of keep things going. So I'm going to pull the drive back just so you can hear where it was. And what I'm going to do, and one of the very cool things about HX Edit here is this undo little function here. So if I pull it back, I can pull it back to where it was. And it's the drive adds a little bit of hair and a little extra volume. Yeah, I miss having that extra bit of bass, so I'm going to pull that puppy back up. Okay, let's check out the low mids. Now hear the little extra, that gave us a little bit of clarity. Let me pull that back. Oh, I've got multiple levels of undo. Okay, here we go. Pulling it back. Bring it back again. That's kind of some secret sauce going on right there. Okay, the high mids, let's mess with that. Pull it back first. I think we just lost some of the clack. Hear that? I'm going to pull it back. So some of the clack. Like that. I think what I'm going to do though is I'm going to see where it was and I'm going to split the difference. And sometimes splitting the difference doesn't make enough of a difference. Yeah, I'm going to pull it back to about where I had it before. Because I've still got a little rumble on the top end. All right, now what I'm going to do is I've got the treble. I'm going to pull the treble back to about the same point. Thing about treble is I can always pull it off the bass. You can't add it back in if it's not there. I like that. Channel volume we don't need to mess with. And these other type of amp features we don't really need to get into either. By the way, I am using the B15N model. My bad for not mentioning that at the top. That is a classic Ampeg model. Anytime I'm using Helix or Pod Go or anything, that's where I go. Unless I'm playing something with a higher gain sort of thing going on, and then I'll head over to, of course, the SVT. But the B15N, has just such a great range of tones and dynamics and things that are available there. It's absolutely lovely. All right. Now, let's see. Hey, so I'm getting the spinning beach ball there, and I'm getting it there, but am I getting it there? Are you going to let me switch back to that camera? No, you're not. Okay, all right, it's just going to be like that. All right, so hey, what's going on, Jem? How are you, my man? Okay, so let me go ahead and, let me answer some questions here, first of all, Stephen, thank you so much. In terms of getting a subscription to the magazine, if you go to, for example, worshipmusician.com and then you kind of load the current issue of the magazine there, on the bottom of any one of those pages it says subscribe for free, because you can subscribe for free. We are in the middle of redesigning the website, and then it will be painfully obvious, like, well, there won't be bright lights kind of, but it'll be obvious. And it will be added to the Facebook page. Imagine that. So thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Stephen. What's going on, Jem? How are you, my man? HX Eddie, you got to love that. Isn't software great? Yeah, Brett, it's a thing. So it is a thing. All right, let's open this guy up. Yeah, to the Facebook. Oh, there we go. All right, let's bring you down. That's, again, the whole thing. As soon as you go to the point where you can see and all the comments, it decides to unmute the mic there. All right, let me make sure that calling that is harder than just feeling it. Absolutely, Wayne. Brett, I'm not coordinated enough to count and play at the same time. It's very hard for me. Here's the deal. Start off with quarter notes. Oh, interesting. So it actually did load a scene. It just didn't show it. Okay. Good. Oh, I'm back. Okay, great. So the deal is just going 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So obviously there I went quarter notes, then eighth notes, and then eighth notes on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then back to quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice place, easy place to start. Not hard. It just takes a minute to get used to it. And it is so therapeutic to actually know where the notes are, because if you don't know where the notes are, you don't know where the notes are. And trust me, literally, I mean, it's just a matter of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And hey, look, even if you just need to hang out at the quarter note level, practice doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that just gets you used to the idea of I'm looking for a specific beat at a specific location in the measure. That's 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. And that way you just get used to being able to, if you can't feel it, you can count it. It's huge, 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 huge. All right. Yes, 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 yes. All right. All right. Hey, what's going on, Brenton? How are you, my man? All right. Let's see here. All right. All right. Let's see if things are still spinning beach balls over there. They are. Okay, but at least... All right, well, here's the really good news. All right, so just so you guys know, I'll let you in on the plot. I don't know, about a half an hour before the stream, getting ready to get started, everything's cool and groovy, and all of a sudden, this computer just like black screen, black. Then it reboots and it says, cannot install Mac OS software, and I'm like, this is not good. The good news, thankfully, is upstairs that arrived today is a new iMac. And also upstairs that arrived today was 2 32 gigabyte cards of memory for that iMac. So the timing was a godsend. Amen. All right, so I want some questions. Give me some gnarly questions. Like, how do you not suck at the bass? Okay. I mean, here's the deal. If left to my own devices, what's going on, Brenton? I will ask my own questions. So how do you not suck at the bass? All right, first of all, one of the things you want to do, I'm just going to go there. Let's pull up our funky drummer here. But let's not do something quite, where are we at? We had this guy going on here, right? I'll start there. So the deal is the funky white guy. Just pentatonic, baby. With a little bit of and a little bit of the slidey guy. So I kind of like I'm a bit of a broken record. I have about maybe 10 kind of things that I do, like the. Here comes. Love that. That's just like me wearing that record out in the groove there. But it's just one of those things that just takes the whole band up, and then if you do it at the end of a. So the other thing is, in addition to just kind of playing the flat 5 there, I'll play that natural 7. That is to say, if I were to take the A minor pentatonic, and I am playing a 5-string bass, so that would be A, C, D, E, G, which compared to an A major scale is a 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, and a 1. So I'm basically filling in that little note and this one right there. And so those notes are that little. The other thing is, sorry. Oh, look, my green screen's coming back. There we go. I got a green screen shadow. And I've lost the bottom of my bass. There we go. Oh, now I'm the bib bass player. My buddy Atma that I used to play with used to talk about the bass bib. You got to have the stupid look on your face, huh? Oh, am I going to regret this afterwards? But in any case, it was fun. I hope that was half as entertaining for you as it was for me. All right, so the idea, though, is these kind of notes where you're actually... whether it's just the slap of the string, literally, and I don't mean that type of a slap. Also to mute. And so there what I did was, and without quite as much slap, and I'm coming up, it's not like I'm totally just muting it. It's not like I'm nailing it. And so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So when the snare drum hits on 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and... that sounds like a certain song that I won't mention. All right. So So the thing is that thing with the right hand, you can do stuff like that with the... So there. And actually, sometimes what I'll actually do is I'll actually lift that note. So they don't actually happen at the same time. There we go. I find a rhythmically intelligent way of doing that. That's the other thing with a little bit of, no, there's no compression on, but this model has a little bit of compression in it because it's sagging like a tube amp would. So it gives you that kind of... that little bit of the kind of the way it grabs like that. It's a lovely sound. All right, let me see if any human beings have any 1, 5, 2, 4 progression. Okay, in G, 1 bar each. What notes can I add? All right, Brent, I love this. A question. Here we go. 1, 5, 2, 4 progression in G1. So the deal is, just as a little bit of background, that being the G major scale, and that being the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. What he's talking about is 1, 5, 2, 4. The funny thing is, instinctively, Brenton, I immediately went to some stuff. Let's see if I can move this around without destroying anything. So there's a little motif where I kind of do this little whole step E, 4/5, and happening on the 5 to the 2. And there, that same thing. It's almost like kind of a rhythmic call and response, where on the 2nd and 4th cycle, here comes. Matter of fact, I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I kind of got this 8th note thing happening on the 1st and 3rd cycle, and a 16th note thing happening on the 2nd and 4th. 2nd and 4th. 1E and a 2E, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1 and 2 and 3. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... Gosh, you know, I have a hard time calling 16th notes and playing 8th notes. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E, 3E and a 4E and a 1E and 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1 and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. Now, the next thing that we haven't talked about yet, I guess it wouldn't be the next thing that we haven't talked about yet, but the next thing we're going to talk about that we haven't talked about yet. There we go. So let's say for a minute that kind of like, by the way, we're going to, the name of this little kind of zigzag was kind of like playing bass in 24 hours or less. One of the things eventually I think, actually I'm going to believe that most or all of you are going to discover is that bass is a great instrument to write from. What's neat is that as guitar players, Brent, you've heard me talk about it, it's kind of like it's really easy to fall into that rut. We just play the same chords and the same keys over and over, and you wonder why, wow, it doesn't get any more inspirational than it was 100 times ago. Well, the neat thing about a chord progression, if I play it from the bass, I go, all right, let me change it up. So what I'm basically doing is taking the, if I were to play the G major scale, and taking the 1, 3, and the 5, so the 3 and the 5, B and D, and I can play those guys. Well, I'm actually not going to play the B and the D. I'm just going to play the B, and I'm going to take the G, I'm going to play it up an octave. So basically I'm going 1, the octave, and the 3, up the octave. Doing the same thing for the 4 chord, same thing for the 2 chord, and the same thing for the 5 chord. Backing that up a little bit, we're in the key of G major. The notes are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. And you can think of that as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Turn off the notifications. 1, hold the 2, hold the 3, half to 4, hold the 5, hold the 6, hold the 7, half to 1. 1, half to 7, hold the 6, hold the 5, hold the 4, half to 3, hold the 2, hold the 1. which gets translated into basically 2 holes and a half, 3 holes and a half. And you can just move that around. And that's the, basically, if you will, the DNA of the major scale. Moving back to the key of G. If I started at G and played every other note, those are the notes of its triad. I did the same thing at A, and B, and C, and D, E. You'd end up with G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp diminished, and G major, which you can play. We're not actually going to include the 5, but we're going to go 1 octave in the 3. And per Breton's comment, what was that? The other thing to keep in mind is this is basically G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. So any of those notes, oh. Oh. 4 chord. Brenton's laughing. So you're able to add those. Sorry, I played an F natural instead of an F sharp. So the neat thing is, say we've got our little we've just got some little thing that we can pull in there, again, per your question, which was great. Finding some extra notes to grab in there. So let's, it was on the and right, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All right. So now we're dragging that thing that we did before with the 8th note and the 16th note thing and bring that in there. Now the other thing is you can kind of go let's see if I can't add a little bit of something like let's add some secret. All right, how about a little bit less secret? Sorry, hang on. There we go. And there we go. What I'm going to do right now, I'm pulling the decay back, and so let's say, for example, I wanted to have a kind of a little intro. I'm going to turn it into a ballad. I'm going to show you the one of my other favorite little tricks. Way less verb. I'm going to split the difference. right? Not necessarily uber cool, but the idea is we're kind of doing this piano. So it's one, so we're plucking the root in the third bass bib. If I play it a little softer. If you had some pads going on underneath that, I think that could sound pretty nice. You could also go. Just kind of taking a more of a piano-like approach to the instrument, which I absolutely love doing. Okie dokie. Let's see what's going on over here. No more spinning beach ball of death, which is good. Inexplicably. Okay, hey, all right. Hello to everybody back on YouTube, coming back over here. All right. And that is the thrill of live. You got it, Dean. How are you, man? Second toggle could be coil splitting. I'll go with that. HX edit can adjust center frequency. And that's right. So, yes. Move back to somewhere else on the live feed. Lovely. Channeling your inner funk. Thanks, Brad. She was channeling something. Okay, great question. John Zachary was asking about compression. Initially, when I had this preset dialed up, and I'm going to turn the verb off. I tell you what, let me include you guys in on the plot here. Here we go. Come on. There we go. All right. Everything seems to be behaving for the moment. So I initially... okay. All right. So initially I had a compressor on here, but I found with this amp I didn't need it. Now that said, I'm going to bypass the amp. And a lot of the time you're going to find yourself front of house with no amp or anything. And so there what I did, you saw me reach down and bring that little bit of bass back in, and that, again, the interesting thing is what worked on the amp also worked kind of, if you will, direct. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in what I believe was the studio comp. Yeah. All right, so here's the interesting thing about compression, is that generally speaking, in Guitarville, compression has a tendency to attack the transient, right? I was making sure that I wasn't going to deafen anybody, myself included. That is to say that attack that you hear. That said, one of the things that's really important is that as you're kind of hanging out doing different types of things, you become aware that compression behaves differently on different instruments, and different compressors behave differently on different instruments. But one of the things that you noticed that the compressor did was it hugged some of the sides of the notes, not just the attack. Hang on a second. Let me bypass that. Listen for the pick. That's what I'm going to use a pick, actually. Hear the difference? On. Mouse more on. Okay. Off. All right. So all that crispy stuff on top. And I started picking louder. So here it is without the compressor. Same volume, hopefully, with the compressor. So it just gets more of the top stuff because that's the first stuff that the compressor can react to. But the other thing is pulling the compressor off. And bringing it back on. the notes aren't quite as wide. So it's not just pulling the top end off, it's also just kind of bringing them a little bit tighter such that they're not quite as floppy in the bottom end, which is one of the reasons this particular compressor, and it's an LA2A is what the model is of, and it is, hang on, let's do this and let's do this. It's this guy. As tiny as that is, that's an LA2A. And so that's a very classic studio compressor. And so what's neat about that is that there's, these compressors, first of all, sometimes people will actually not even actually have the compression circuit active, but they'll just run them in line because the actual sound of the electronics, the circuit, is pleasing. That said, the way that they compress things, every one of these compressors, that if every compressor were the same, they wouldn't have 9 of them in here, would they? But, as I kind of was dialing up this thing, I thought, okay, well, let me start off with just kind of a direct sound, and let me think about kind of like, what are the things that I'm going to do out of the box to try and get a good sound? And I was on a different bass, the green screen bass, which was very strange. But the idea was just some compression on there is a great way to go. So for those of you wondering, Helix, obviously a great way to go, HX Stomp, HX Effects. But the other thing is the MXR bass compressor is actually a model of the LA2A. Hey, what do you know? And that's kind of, when I need just like some little baby pedals, quite often what I'll do is I'll bring the MXR bass compressor, the MXR reverb pedal is nice, and then sometimes I'll bring the Boss octave pedal, that brown pedal. And so actually, let me imitate the magic of that little brown pedal. And I'm going to have the compressor go first, but let me go over here and let me find pitch. And let me pull that bad boy up. Come here, baby. You gonna be in the, there we go, pitch and synth. And, oh, interesting, that particular, oh wait, are you gonna be in Legacy? Bass octaver. All right, that'll do. All right, so that's a little extreme there, obviously, but hang on a second. There we go. Now, where this is helpful, so I would have it more subtle than that. And let me do a little bit of something here, add a little bit of verb in here. So that little bit of adds a nice degree of subtlety that really kind of is subtle and fun. And, the neat thing is, as a bass player in Warship, you want to be able to use some of those tools, but in a way that if anybody actually notices them, it's not because they notice them because they get in the way. It's because they notice them because they're like, that's not the guitar, that's not the piano. What is that? And that's really cool, but it's subtle. And the idea is, generally speaking, when I use bass effects on bass, I try not to have it be something that people are immediately going to notice. They're just going to be kind of like, something sounds good. And I don't necessarily want them to know it's the bass. It's just like, our little secret there. But it ends up being one of the neat things about bass, because bass, unlike guitar, really, as guitar players, we do not live. What's going on, Jeremy? How you doing, man? We do not necessarily live. Brian Wall, what's happening, dude? We do not necessarily live in the land of subtle. All right, fine. Shush. You. Notifications. No, stop. You are going away. Bye-bye. Stop. Just no. Yes. Today. Shush. Okay, good. All right. So, I'm not absolutely sure that that did what I wanted it to do, but we're just going to believe that it will. All right. There we go. All right. All right, so here's the thing. Those little kind of little subtle things on the top are just really lovely. And again, they're time. Here's the deal. If I try and go up top and I mute that stuff, and you guys should still see me in mouse number 1. Behind mouse number 1. There we go. There we go. All right, good. Behind mouse number 1, you should, if I were to play that same line, and I were to take all the grooviness out, and I'm going to kill the verb, and I'm going to kill our little octave guy, and I were to kind of take our little... Besides a little bit of funky fingering in there, that's really, well, actually, that kind of point... That's really, you gotta really kind of be on your accurate detail. Now, I'm not going to add the octave back in here, but I am going to add the reverb in. Let's add a little more verb now. So let's say you had this on some sort of expression pedal, right? That sort of subtle is really something that I love to do when I'm playing bass in worship. And again, you only have enough effects to make it so it's not flipping bone dry if you choose to go there. But at the same time, you hopefully nobody really notices except for the people that you would actually want to have kind of go, that was nice, right? We like it when they do that. We like that. All right, let's take a look here. Excellent. Ooh. All right, how do we add modes into the bass? I love that. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do this. Hang on a second. Let me get into this other view. Nice, right? And there it goes. Basically just pulling the volume straight up because it's going to do that. There we go. All right. All right. All right, let's do this here. Good, good, good. Making sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, let me refresh that and see what sort of bizarreness this is going to do here. Oh, interesting. Uh-huh. All right. There we go. And bring me your questions. How do we add modes into our bass playing? Okay, Brenton, that's just such a lovely question, and I will gleefully engage that. Okay, so, you know, a minute ago we kind of walked our way. All right, I guess my question is, do you think of the modes of the chords? I think of 7 things. You want to guess what those 7 things are for the key of G? You got it. Boy, we're going to go there. I love it. One of the things that I have gotten really big on is understand the relationship between the note names. Because if you can understand the note names and can look at them in a really straightforward way, you're gonna get some really powerful stuff out of the relationship between seeing them as they move up and down the neck. First and foremost, we're going to head over to the key of C for a moment, and I'm going to change my view over here, and I'm going to do this for you, and we're going to do this right here, and we're going to go here like that. There we go. All right, so here's the deal. Right here, we're in the key of G, which we mapped out before. Oh, this is convenient. All right, we're going to map out the key of C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. All right, so as you take a look at the relationship between those, do I have the PDF up? Hang on a second. Ooh, let's do this. Hang on a second. Let's do this. And let's do... Are you going to let me choose my application? No, you're not. You're just going to be that way tonight. Okay. Okay. Well, that's not going to happen tonight. All right. So, all right. Being a little unhappy. So the deal is you will be able to see me down here. Basically, if we're thinking about the key of C major, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, that maps the white notes on the piano. And basically, you got C on the bass or the guitar. You'd move 2 frets for a whole step, right? So that's C, hold a D, hold a E, half to F, hold a G, hold a A, hold a B, half to C. So basically, the natural, that is to say no sharps or flats, adjacent, that is to say next door to each other, half steps occurred between E and F and B and C. All other natural, as in no sharps or flats, adjacent, as in next door to each other, notes are a whole step apart, like F and G and A and C and D and D and E. And so I should say, hold on a second, C and D, D and E, F and G, G and A and B. So the deal is that if you kind of get used to this, C, hold the D, hold the E, have to F, hold the G, hold the A, hold the B, have to C, have to B, hold the A, hold the G, hold the F, have to E, hold the D, hold the C, this way of calling out the note names like that, you become very comfortable with, if you will, with the rhythm of the note names. And so the deal is you think of this as, at the same time, thinking that the C, D, and E are in fact the 1, 2, and 3 of this key. If I were to go, all right, C, D, E, F, in my mind, I'm kind of thinking at the same time, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I spent a lot of time as a teacher kind of really mapping the numbers. And so that's kind of why when Brenton was like, hey, can you give me a 1, 5, 2, 4? I was like, sure. But the idea is that if we're able to think of that 1, 5, 2, 4, and that was in the key of G as G, D, A, and C, all of a sudden, by saying G, D, A, and C, if you know the notes in that key, you also know that those are the 1, 5, 2, and the 4. And if you know the notes in the key of C, the 1, 5, 2, and 4 are what? C, G, D, and F. That's right. So the other thing that's kind of neat about that is that was kind of a little box that he created. That is to say, one of the neat things about the guitar or the bass is there are these shape things. And that's kind of that shape relationship of what he was kind of calling out. That's 1, 5, 2, 4 for the key of C. Sorry, G, and this is 1, 5, 2, 4 for the key of C. All right, so getting back to this whole note naming thing, one of the things I would suggest doing, especially if you're coming over to 6-string guitar, from 6-string guitar to over to a 5-string bass, as I would get very familiar with this low B string very quickly, because the brain just wants to see it as an E string. So the idea is, all right, B, have to C, hold the D, hold the E, have to F, hold the G, hold the A, hold the B, hold the A, hold the G, hold the F, hold the F, have to E, hold the D, hold the C, have to B. Getting comfortable with calling out those note names is cool. Now, even cooler than that is actually seeing the notes of the neck, if you will. The order of whole steps and half steps in the major scale goes 2 wholes and a half, 3 wholes and a half. So if you can kind of see that for the key of B, E, A, D, and G kind of simultaneously, or being able to toggle between them, that's huge. So that is to say, B, hold to C sharp, hold to D sharp, half to E, hold to F sharp, hold to G sharp, hold to A sharp, half to B. B, half to A sharp, hold to G sharp, hold to F sharp, hold to E, half to D sharp, hold to C sharp, hold to B. E, hold to F sharp, hold to G sharp, half to A, hold to B, hold to C sharp, hold to D sharp, half to E. E, half to D sharp, hold to C sharp, hold to B, hold to A, half to G sharp, hold to F sharp, hold to E. A, hold to B, hold to C sharp, so on and so forth. If you can do that for each one of those keys, you get really comfortable with, in this case, 5 really important keys that you're going to want to know as a bass player for a couple of reasons. First of all, they are the open strings for each one of the open strings. But also, if you think about the keys that people have a tendency to play with other than keyboardists, who of course love B flat, these are keys that people are going to be not only playing in, but they're going to be capoing to a lot as well. So if you know these keys up and down the neck, and you can kind of begin to go, okay, if I were to, all right, and this is going to be kind of an interesting thing for some folks. If I'm thinking about the key of, let's just say B and E, and again, B, hold a C sharp, hold a D sharp, and the key of E, hold the F sharp, hold the G sharp, those are the first 3 notes. If you can get used to kind of toggling between 2 different keys at the same time, B, E, F sharp, B, E, F sharp, C sharp, my bad, B, E, C sharp, F sharp, D sharp, G sharp, E, A, you're able to then kind of think of the neck in numbers, but through note names. So by going B, C sharp, D sharp, and E, F sharp, and G sharp, I'm expressing the 1, 2, and 3 of the key of B and the key of E. And if I can be comfortable just going B, E, C sharp, F sharp, D sharp, G sharp, I get nice and comfortable with being able to negotiate those keys pretty freely. And that is a powerful thing. So, Brenton, to answer your question, Shane, what's going on, my man? Nice of you to check in. What can you do so you don't sound like a guitar player who got scheduled to play bass on Sunday? All right, well, let me finish up with this modality thing. First of all, knowing the note names and being able to think of the note names as a scaled degree numbers as they fall in those keys is really valuable. The other part of it, though, is then, okay, once I've mapped out, key of G is if you think about your average capoing, a lot of the time it's going to be basically setting up for a G major style capo, right? All right, so, and that is to say, if we're going to do capo 5, it's really setting up to play a C major. And that C major is a lot of the time, or I should say a lot of the time, if you do capo 5, a lot of what's going to be happening is you would be playing a G major shape at C. So you're going to be in the key of C major, right? So the idea is knowing the notes of C major and kind of knowing, if you think about the note names and you can think about them as numbers, that would be a help. So just being able to toggle and do something like this. Let's see how well I'm going to do doing this. All right, so this right here, and I'm going to move up to the key of C right here because it's freaking me out playing on this low B string. So let's just think of this as C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So we're going to basically go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. C, 2, E, 4, G, 6, B, 1. So basically what I did there was I kind of intermeshed the note names and the numbers. And that will mess with your brain a whole bunch, but what will happen is it will get you comfortable with kind of thinking of them as numbers and note names and note names and numbers by the time your brain is done hurting. So in so doing, you kind of get really fluid with being able to think of them not, I'm either thinking of this as numbers or I'm either thinking of this as note names. It kind of gets you closer towards thinking of things of the note names. And where this becomes valuable is not so much on the bass, and I think I'm going to try something here that I have no idea how it's going to go. All right. All right, Brenton, I know this is not going to be the Sunday Fair, and Shane, this is not necessarily going to answer your question, but it's still going to be fun. So how to kind of traverse from the guitar to the bass and have some sensibility about the instrument that you can carry over. So I'm picking the G string here. And so if we were to think about G major, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G, I'm going to add the B there on the top as a tap. Definitely wouldn't recommend starting Sunday morning like this. But the idea is being able to go, okay, so if I wanted to play major, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, mixed Lydian, minor, Locrian, and back to the first note of major or any one of those modes. The idea of getting comfortable with thinking of the key of G major has but one sharp. And it's right there, and it's driven by the fact that the order of whole steps and half steps in major go 2 holes and a half, 3 holes and a half. So we're cruising along. G, hold the A, hold the B, half the C, hold the D, hold the E. And we're at that last whole step. Well, E to F is a half step, but we need a whole step. That's why it's F sharp. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So if I want to think about 1, 5, 2, 4, G, D, boy, that sounded strange. G, D, A, C. No, G, B. No, my brain has lost. D. I've completely lost my mind. Right, 1, 5, 2, 4. Sorry. G, D, A, C. G, D, A, C. Sorry. Brain malfunction. I'm back. G, D, A, C. So again, the neat thing is if I were to say G, D, A, C, and I'm thinking about... I'm thinking G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. And I'm thinking 1, hold a 2, hold a 3, half to 4, hold a 5, hold a 6, hold a 7, half to 1. Well, I get that for free when I think about G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C, hold the D, hold the E, hold the F sharp, half to G. So long as I don't completely lose my mind, G, D, A, C. And if I know the notes well enough, then I know G, D, A, C is my 1, 5, 2, 4. All right, so now let's have some fun. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't really do us a lot of good as we change modes. So I'm going to change that up a little bit, and I realize we're going out on a little bit of a tangent, but in our last 5 minutes of tonight, I'm just going to go like into the deep end because that's my favorite end of the pool. So if we were to go 1, 6, 3, 5, then basically if you think about for each of the modes, there's a major, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, mixed Lydian. What did I say? 5, 1, 6, 3, 5. No, I want to do 1, 6, 3, 4 major. And if that wasn't what I said before, I'm changing my mind. 1, 6, 3, 4 for major 1. So I'm going to call out the scale degree numbers as I do it. Just so that's 1, 6, 3, 4 for major. 1, 6, flat 3, 4 for Dorian. 1, flat 6, flat 3, 4 for Phrygian. 1, 6, 3, sharp 4 for Lydian. 1, 6, 3, 4 for mixed Lydian. 1, 6. 1 flat 6, flat 3, 4 for minor. 1 flat 6, flat 3, 4 for Locrian. Now, if we turn that into note names, we end up with G, E. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. G, E, G, E, B, C, G, E flat, B flat, C, G, E, B flat. Oh, right, no, that's Phrygian. So basically, I'm now mode spelling with the note name. So I'm going 1, 6, 3, 4 for major, 1 flat 6, flat 3, 4. So in other words, 1, 6, 3, 4 major is going to be G, E, B, C. All right, then 1, 6, flat 3, 4 for Dorian is going to be G, E, B flat, and C. 1, 6, Phrygian, 1 flat 6, flat 3, 4 for Phrygian is going to be 1, E flat, B flat, and C. And then 1, 6, 3 sharp 4 for Lydian is going to be G, E, B, C sharp. And then 1, 6, 3, 4 for mixed Lydian is going to be G, E, B, C. And 1 flat 6, flat 3, 4 for minor is going to be G, E flat, B flat, C. And 1 flat 6, flat 3, 4 for Locrian is going to be the same thing. G, E flat, B flat, C. And so the idea of getting comfortable with the note names means that you can begin to, let's say, for example, I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the octave. All right, so 1, 6, 3, 4. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go 1, 5, 6. So I'm going to go 5, 6, 3, 4 is what I'm going to do. So basically, and this is where being able to track that I'm switching from the E to the E flat is important. So in other words, I'm going major is E, D and E, and B and C. And then D and E flat for Dorian. D and E for Dorian, and B flat and C. And then D and E flat for Phrygian, and B flat and C. And D and E for Lydian, and B and C sharp. And D and E, and B and C for mixed Lydian. And D and E flat, and B flat and C for minor, and the D flat and E flat, and B flat and C for Locrian. Major, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, mixed Lydian, minor, Locrian, major. Holy cow. All right. So, Shane, unfortunately, to answer your question, what did you do so you don't sound like a guitar player? Do me a favor. We covered a bunch of that, but part of that is just... First of all, don't play with reverb during the verses. Focus on the kick drum. Focus on playing dynamically. Don't overplay. And sometimes subtle, which of course is something guitar players are not necessarily known for. So in any case, ladies and gentlemen, that would get us to the end of our allotted 2 hours. It has been a pleasure. I hope this has been helpful for you. The bass is an absolutely amazing instrument, and as you're potentially rostered to play bass, I hope kind of the range of things, not necessarily all the crazy mode stuff at the end, but Brenton, you made me do it, is a great way to be able to think about the note names as you're thinking about how they're functioning in the key you're in, and that will always be a help. Have a great night. Thank you so much, and God bless.